The front desk clerk barely glanced up before delivering the words that left Samuel Whitmore stunned. "I'm sorry, sir, but we can't accommodate you. We have a strict policy." Samuel had expected to see problems when he went undercover at his own hotel, but being denied a room outright, that was something else entirely. As the CEO of a small but growing hotel chain, Samuel had inherited the business from his father 5 years ago. He had expanded it from 4 locations to 10, but in doing so, he had gradually lost touch with the day-to-day experience of guests and staff. Complaints had started trickling in: rude service, cleanliness issues, and booking mishaps. His regional managers assured him everything was under control, but Samuel wasn't convinced. So he had decided to see for himself. Ditching his usual tailored suits, he dressed in a simple, worn-out hoodie and jeans. He let his beard grow out a little and wore glasses he didn't need. No one at this particular location had ever met him in person. It was one of the newer additions to the chain, acquired from another owner, and the staff had only dealt with corporate managers, not him directly. He had walked in expecting to check in like any other guest, but now, standing at the desk, he was being refused and he had no idea why. "Strict policy?" Samuel asked, keeping his voice calm. "I don't understand. Do you not have rooms available?" The clerk, a young man with a name tag that read Kevin, sighed as if this conversation was beneath him. "No, we have rooms, but we have a policy against certain guests." Samuel narrowed his eyes. "Certain guests." Kevin finally looked up, taking in Samuel's worn hoodie and slightly scruffy look. "We don't rent to locals. Management says they bring trouble. We only book out-of-town guests." Samuel's stomach tightened. That was absurd. His hotels were supposed to be a welcoming place for all paying guests, not some exclusive club. "That doesn't make sense," Samuel said, keeping his tone neutral. "I have money. I can pay for the room." Kevin shrugged. "Sorry, man, it's policy. If I book you in and my manager finds out, I get written up." Samuel glanced around the lobby. A young woman at the concierge desk was watching the exchange, her expression tight with discomfort. He made a mental note of her. Before he could push further, a voice interrupted. "Kevin, what's going on?" A middle-aged man in a stiff suit walked over, his name tag reading Jason, General Manager. His expression soured the moment he looked Samuel up and down. "He's a local trying to book a room," Kevin explained. Jason folded his arms. "Sir, as my employee explained, we don't rent to locals. It's our policy to avoid certain issues." Samuel kept his expression neutral, though his blood was boiling. "What kind of issues?" Jason scoffed. "We've had problems before, people using the rooms for things that aren't exactly legal." "We run a respectable establishment." Samuel clenched his jaw. "So, you're assuming I'm here for something illegal just because I live in town?" Jason didn't even look ashamed. "It's nothing personal, it's just business." Samuel exhaled slowly, reining in his anger. "And what if I told you I was here for a legitimate reason? Maybe I need a place to stay for the night." Jason smirked. "Then you should find another hotel that doesn't mind taking risks." Samuel was speechless. His own hotel, his own employees were turning away paying customers based on nothing but assumptions. Before he could respond, the young woman from earlier stepped in. "Sir, if I may," she said, looking at Jason carefully. "There's no actual policy written down about this. We've turned people away before, but I've never seen anything official." Jason shot her a glare. "Stay out of this, Nicole." Nicole hesitated but didn't back down. "I just think it's wrong." Samuel made another mental note. Nicole was someone to watch. Jason turned back to Samuel. "I'm not changing my mind. You need to leave." Samuel took a slow breath. He had seen enough for now. There was no way he was letting this slide. Without another word, he turned and walked out, but as he left, he caught Nicole watching him, her expression conflicted. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Samuel didn't go far. He walked down the street, around the corner, and pulled out his phone. He needed to process what had just happened. His own hotel had refused him service based on pure assumption. Worse, the general manager, someone he had trusted to uphold the standards of the brand, felt completely justified in doing so. He leaned against a lamppost, watching the entrance of the hotel from a distance. Guests came and went, some dragging suitcases, others checking their phones as they waited for rides. The lobby remained busy, a steady flow of people moving through. It all looked normal from the outside. But inside, there was a culture that had clearly gone unchecked for too long. Samuel exhaled sharply and made a decision. He wasn't leaving. Instead, he walked a block down to a different hotel, booked a room for the night, and settled in. He needed to see more before revealing himself. The next morning, dressed the same as before, he returned to his hotel not as a guest, but as someone looking for work. The front entrance was quieter now, the morning rush having passed. He walked up to the same desk where Kevin had been the night before. This time, a different employee stood behind the counter, a woman in her late 30s with tired eyes and a name tag that read Linda. Samuel adjusted his tone, keeping it casual. "Hey, I was wondering if you guys were hiring." Linda barely looked up from her computer. "You'll need to fill out an application online. We don't take walk-ins." Samuel nodded, pretending to hesitate. "I don't have a computer right now. I was just hoping to ask someone about open positions." Linda sighed, clearly not in the mood for conversation, but before she could brush him off entirely, a voice spoke up from behind. "You looking for work?" Samuel turned. It was Nicole, the same young woman who had spoken up the night before. Her expression was curious but not unfriendly. "Yeah," he said. "I've done front desk work before." "Just looking for something steady." Nicole glanced at Linda, then back at him. "We do need people. A couple of employees quit last week." Linda gave a non-committal grunt but didn't argue. Nicole stepped around the counter. "Come with me. I'll introduce you to the assistant manager." Samuel followed her down a short hallway, passing a break room where two employees sat hunched over their phones. The air smelled faintly of burnt coffee. "Long night?" he asked, making conversation. Nicole gave a small, dry laugh. "Always." They reached an office, the door slightly ajar. Inside, a man in his late 20s sat at a cluttered desk, typing furiously on a keyboard. His name tag read Eric, Assistant Manager. "Eric," Nicole said, knocking on the door frame. "We've got someone interested in the front desk job." Eric looked up, eyes flicking over Samuel quickly. "You have experience?" "Yeah," Samuel said. "Worked front desk at a hotel a couple years back. Can handle check-ins, customer service, all that." Eric exhaled, rubbing his temple. "We do need people. Can you start today?" Samuel kept his reaction neutral. "That fast? No formal interview, no paperwork, just like that?" "Sure," he said. Eric pushed back from his desk. "Fine, Nicole, show him around." "Get him up to speed." Nicole nodded, motioning for Samuel to follow her out. As they walked back toward the front, she glanced at him. "That was easy." Samuel raised an eyebrow. "Is it always like that?" Nicole hesitated. "Lately, yeah, people don't stay long." That told him a lot. For the next few hours, he shadowed Nicole at the front desk. She explained the basics of their system, how they handled reservations and the daily expectations. As they worked, he observed everything: the way customers were handled, how calls were answered, and most importantly, how the staff interacted with each other. It didn't take long to notice the problems. Kevin, the employee from the night before, was dismissive with guests, barely making eye contact. Linda seemed exhausted, doing the bare minimum. And Jason, the general manager, rarely left his office, only appearing to give curt instructions before disappearing again. The staff had no energy, no motivation, but Nicole, she was different. She was patient with guests, even when they were difficult. She explained things clearly, kept a professional tone, and even covered for Kevin's mistakes when he got flustered. During a lull, Samuel leaned against the counter. "You're good at this." Nicole gave a small shrug. "Thanks. How long have you been here?" "A year and a half. You like it?" She hesitated before answering. "I like the work, the rest, not so much." Samuel nodded slowly. "Management," Nicole glanced around, then lowered her voice. "Jason doesn't care about anything except making the numbers look good. If something goes wrong, he blames the staff. If a guest complains, we're the problem. He doesn't fix anything, just tells us to deal with it." Samuel absorbed that. It confirmed what he had already suspected. He was about to ask more when a commotion near the elevators caught his attention. A guest, a middle-aged man in a business suit, was arguing with Kevin. Samuel and Nicole both turned toward the scene. "Sir, I already told you," Kevin said, his tone bored. "There's nothing I can do." The guest's face was red with frustration. "You put me in a room with a broken air conditioner. I need another room." Kevin exhaled loudly. "We're fully booked." "Then fix it," Kevin shrugged. "Maintenance isn't here right now." Samuel glanced at Nicole. "Is that true?" She frowned. "No, maintenance is in the back." Before Samuel could say anything, Jason emerged from his office. His eyes landed on the argument, and his expression immediately shifted to one of forced politeness. "Is there a problem?" The guest turned to him, clearly hoping for better results. "Yes. This employee is refusing to help me." Jason's gaze flicked to Kevin, then back to the guest. "I sincerely apologize for the inconvenience. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do at the moment." Samuel's stomach twisted. Jason wasn't trying to solve the problem, he was trying to make it go away. The guest shook his head in disbelief. "This is ridiculous. I'm calling corporate." Jason's fake smile didn't waver. "You're free to do that, sir." The man stormed off toward the elevators, muttering under his breath. Jason turned to Kevin. "Next time, don't argue. Just tell them we're handling it." Kevin nodded absently. Nicole looked frustrated but didn't say anything. Samuel clenched his jaw. He had seen enough. For now, Samuel had heard enough. He stepped away from the front desk, his mind already working through the next steps. He couldn't just leave it at this, he needed to push further and see just how deep the issues ran. He decided to take a walk through the hotel, using his new employee status as a reason to explore different areas without suspicion. Nicole was called away to assist a guest, leaving him free to move around unnoticed. As he walked down the hallway toward the back offices, he passed the housekeeping station. A woman in her 40s was leaning against a cart, rubbing her temples. Her uniform was slightly wrinkled and she looked exhausted. He paused, pretending to straighten a nearby chair. "Long shift?" he asked casually. She glanced up, surprised by the question. "Always," she muttered. Samuel studied her expression. "Short-staffed." She let out a dry laugh. "That's one way to put it. They cut 2 positions last month, but they still expect us to clean the same number of rooms. We barely keep up." Samuel frowned. "That can't be easy." "It's not," she admitted. "But Jason doesn't care. As long as guests don't complain too much, nothing changes." Her words confirmed what he had already suspected. Jason prioritized surface-level appearances over actual operations. He thanked her for her time and moved on. He made his way to the employee break room where a few workers sat in silence, eating quickly before their shifts resumed. The atmosphere was heavy, filled with a quiet tension. No one was chatting or relaxing. It was clear that breaks were more about recovering from exhaustion than taking a moment to breathe. He didn't linger, instead heading toward the maintenance area. A door was propped open, and inside, a man in his 50s was bent over a workbench, fixing a broken chair leg. His uniform had the name Carl stitched onto the pocket. Samuel knocked lightly on the doorframe. "Hey, Carl." The man glanced up, raising an eyebrow. "You knew?" "Yeah," Samuel said, "just trying to get familiar with everything." Carl wiped his hands on a rag. "Well, you're in the wrong place for that. Front desk doesn't usually wander back here." Samuel leaned against the doorway. "I saw a guest complaining about a broken air conditioner earlier. Kevin said maintenance wasn't available." Carl scoffed. "That's because Kevin doesn't like calling us. Would rather pretend the problem doesn't exist than deal with it." Samuel nodded, absorbing that. "So you could have fixed it." Carl gave him a look. "Of course, if they'd bothered to tell me." Another piece of the puzzle fell into place. The staff wasn't just dismissive toward guests, they were dismissive toward each other. There was no coordination, no teamwork. Everyone was just trying to get by with as little effort as possible, except for the few employees who actually cared. Samuel's jaw tightened. This wasn't just a management issue, it was a cultural problem. A lack of leadership had let this kind of behavior fester, and now it was ingrained in how the hotel functioned. Before he could ask anything else, Carl nodded toward the hallway. "If you're smart, you won't get too comfortable here. People don't last long." Samuel gave a non-committal nod and stepped out. He had more than enough proof now. It was time to act. That afternoon, Samuel waited until Jason was in his office before making his move. He walked in without knocking, closing the door behind him. Jason glanced up from his computer, already annoyed. "What do you want?" Samuel didn't hesitate. "I want to talk about how you're running this place." Jason blinked. "Excuse me." Samuel took a step forward. "You've been turning away local guests based on nothing but assumptions. Your staff is overworked and undersupported. Maintenance requests are ignored, housekeeping is stretched thin, and the front desk is dismissive toward guests. Do you even realize how much damage you're doing to this hotel?" Jason's expression hardened. "Who do you think you are, coming in here and—" Samuel cut him off. "I think I'm your boss, Jason." Silence. Jason's mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. His posture stiffened and his eyes darted across Samuel's face, recognition dawning. Samuel let the moment sink in before speaking again. "I'm Samuel Whitmore. I own this hotel, and for the last 24 hours, I've been seeing firsthand how badly it's being mismanaged." Jason's face went pale. I didn't realize." "That's the problem," Samuel said sharply. "You don't realize anything because you don't care. You've built a culture where employees do the bare minimum because they know there are no consequences. Guests are treated like an inconvenience. Housekeeping is drowning. Maintenance isn't being utilized, and instead of addressing these issues, you're covering them up." Jason swallowed hard. Samuel didn't let him finish. "I'm done with excuses. You're fired." Jason's breath caught in his throat. "Wait, Mr. Whitmore, please." Samuel shook his head. "There's nothing to discuss. Pack your things and leave by the end of the day." Jason sat there, stunned. Samuel turned and walked out, leaving the door open behind him. The moment he stepped back into the lobby, heads turned. Employees had clearly overheard the conversation. Nicole was near the front desk, her expression unreadable. Samuel addressed the staff directly. "Jason is no longer with this hotel. Changes are coming. Effective immediately, local guests will no longer be turned away based on unfair assumptions. Housekeeping will receive additional support. Maintenance requests will be handled properly. And from now on, employees who actually care about their work will be recognized and rewarded." He turned to Nicole. You've been holding this place together despite everything. Starting today, you're the new assistant manager. Her eyes widened in shock. Wait, what? You're the only person I've seen here who actually tries to do the right thing, Samuel said. I need people like that in leadership. Nicole hesitated, then nodded firmly. Okay, I won't let you down. Samuel looked around at the rest of the staff. For those of you who want to do better, you'll have my full support, but if anyone here thinks they can keep coasting on bad habits, you won't last. There was a heavy silence. Then, slowly, Carl stepped forward from the hallway. About time someone cleaned this place up. A few others murmured in agreement. Samuel took a breath. The work wasn't done yet, but the first step had been taken. Now it was time to rebuild. The hotel felt different almost immediately. Jason's absence left a noticeable shift in energy. Employees who had been wary now seemed cautiously optimistic, while others looked uncertain, as if waiting to see if real change would follow. Samuel knew that firing Jason wasn't enough. The deeper issues wouldn't fix themselves overnight. He needed to rebuild trust, not just with the staff but with the guests who had been let down. He spent the next few hours speaking directly to employees, learning more about the day-to-day struggles that had been ignored for too long. Linda admitted that the front desk had been understaffed for weeks, with new hires quitting almost as fast as they arrived. Housekeeping confirmed they were constantly behind schedule, forced to rush through rooms without proper time to clean thoroughly. Even Kevin, despite his dismissive attitude, acknowledged that the lack of leadership had left employees unmotivated. Nicole, now officially in her new role, wasted no time stepping up. She organized a meeting with the front desk team, outlining clearer expectations and emphasizing the importance of customer service. Samuel observed as she spoke with confidence, addressing concerns while also making it clear that things would be run differently. He could see the staff paying attention in a way they hadn't before she had their respect. Meanwhile, Carl took it upon himself to start catching up on maintenance requests that had been ignored. Within hours, the broken air conditioner that had caused a guest's complaint was repaired, along with several other lingering issues. Samuel called for a full staff meeting in the afternoon, gathering employees from all departments. He stood at the front of the room, looking at the faces of people who had been struggling under poor leadership. He didn't waste time with empty speeches. He laid out immediate changes. Additional housekeeping staff would be hired to relieve the overwhelming workload. Maintenance would now have a direct line of communication with the front desk to ensure repairs weren't ignored. Training programs would be implemented to improve customer service, and employees who demonstrated dedication would have opportunities for advancement. There were questions, concerns, even a few skeptical looks, but Samuel addressed each one directly. He knew words alone wouldn't convince them they needed to see action. By the next morning, change was already in motion. A new hiring push brought in additional housekeepers, easing the strain on the overworked staff. Nicole and Linda worked together to refine the check-in process, ensuring guests were greeted with professionalism rather than indifference. Kevin, now under closer supervision, made a visible effort to improve his approach, whether out of genuine change or self-preservation. Samuel couldn't yet tell, but it was progress. Samuel didn't just oversee these changes, he worked alongside the staff, proving that he wasn't just another distant executive making decisions from an office. He assisted at the front desk, checked in with housekeeping, and even helped Carl with minor repairs. Employees took notice. For the first time in a long while, the hotel felt like it was running with purpose. At the end of the week, Samuel gathered the staff once more. He didn't offer a grand speech, just a simple acknowledgement of the work being done and a promise to remain involved. Nicole, standing beside him, had grown into her role quickly. She had earned the trust of her team, proving that leadership wasn't about authority but about responsibility. As Samuel looked around the room, he saw something that hadn't been there before, a sense of pride. The hotel wasn't perfect, yet there was still work to be done, but it was on the right path. And this time, he wouldn't let it slip away again. Samuel kept his presence at the hotel steady, ensuring that the changes he had put in motion didn't falter. He knew that the real test wouldn't be the first week, it would be the weeks that followed. And while things had improved, there were still underlying issues that needed to be addressed. One of those issues became clear when he stepped into the break room one afternoon and found Linda sitting alone, staring at a cup of coffee that had likely gone cold a while ago. She didn't look up when he entered, but the tension in her posture told him she knew he was there. He sat down across from her, waiting a moment before speaking. "Is something on your mind?" Linda exhaled through her nose, finally meeting his gaze. "I've been here a long time," she said. "Seen changes come and go, some good, some bad. But I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting you to actually stick around." Samuel nodded. "You don't think this will last?" She gave a small shrug. "I've seen promises before. Managers come in, say things will be different, and for a while they are. Then things slip back to how they were." He leaned forward slightly. "I don't plan on letting that happen." Linda studied him for a long moment. "Then you should know it's not just about Jason being gone. The problems here didn't start with him, and they won't end just because we have a new assistant manager and a few more housekeepers." Samuel listened carefully. "The pay here isn't great," she continued. "That's why we lose people so fast, and the people we do keep, a lot of them stay because they don't have other options, not because they love the job. That's why no one's motivated." Samuel absorbed that. He had been so focused on fixing the obvious operational failures that he hadn't looked closely at the deeper reasons behind employee disengagement. "What would make this a place people actually wanted to stay?" he asked. Linda hesitated, then answered honestly. "Better wages for one, but also respect. When employees feel like management actually cares about them, not just what they can produce in a day, it changes things." Samuel took that in. He had been thinking about the business from a structural perspective: efficiency, productivity, customer satisfaction. But Linda was pointing out something just as important: how the employees felt about working here. He wasn't just rebuilding operations, he was rebuilding trust. That evening, he sat in his hotel room, running numbers. Increasing wages across the board wasn't an easy decision financially, but it was one he knew would pay off in the long run. If employees felt valued, they would stay longer. Retention would improve, training costs would go down, service would get better, and in the end, guests would notice. The next morning, he called a meeting with Nicole and Eric, the assistant manager and the only remaining member of the previous management team. He got straight to the point. "We're adjusting wages. Front desk staff, housekeeping, maintenance, everyone gets an increase." Nicole's eyes widened slightly, though she quickly masked her surprise. "That's a big move." Eric, who had been cautiously feeling out the new leadership changes, folded his arms. "That's going to cost a lot," Samuel nodded. "It will. But turnover has been one of our biggest costs, and we're losing good people because they don't feel like staying is worth it. If we want a strong team, we invest in them." Eric considered that. "You think it'll make a difference?" "I know it will." Nicole glanced between them. "This is the kind of thing that actually makes people believe in a company." Samuel stood firm. "Then let's make it happen." By the end of the day, the announcement was made. Across the hotel, employees reacted with a mix of surprise, relief, and most importantly, hope. Carl, the maintenance worker, clapped a hand on Samuel's shoulder in passing. Didn't think I'd see the day. Housekeepers who had been on the verge of quitting decided to stay. Linda, who had been skeptical, gave him a small nod of approval. And for the first time since arriving, Samuel felt like he wasn't just putting out fires. He was building something that would last.